welcome. We're here.
Yes, we're here.
Yeah.
We're back.
We're getting started.
Yes, we're getting started.
Episode number 25.
Wait, is this number 25?
Actually, I got to get this straight. I'm working on 24 right now. Your brother's going to be 25. This is actually going to be 26.
26.
Perfect time.
Hey, we're past.
Perfect time. This is a perfect time. We wanted to do.
We're a quarter of a way to our 100 episode celebration.
That's right. I know.
Should we go and start booking for that?
50 Cent is going to be.
50 Cent.
But
100.
we wanted to do a reflection
Yes.
of what we've covered so far.
Our listeners need to be introduced to a big part of our puzzle here.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So welcome, sir.
Yes.
Thank you for having me today.
Can
Yes.
you tell the listener who you are?
Allegedly, I am a videographer.
Yep.
My name's Josh Warren. I produce this show among a few others.
Yep. Producer.
Here in
videographer.
Here in the great state of Louisiana, in the United States of America.
You are. Yeah. So you do video, mainly video.
Yeah.
Is your stream?
Yeah, I started out
marketing
about 8 years ago. It's closer to 10 now because I'm getting up there. You know,
yeah, you
getting
are
in my 30s. But about 10 years ago, started off doing some photos. Just a knucklehead working in kitchens, living the Anthony Bourdain lifestyle before he was famous, which was not a good lifestyle. But ironically, he kind of influenced me in a positive way because obviously he, moved on to CNN correspondence because he had a hit book, Kitchen Confidential, and then it inspired me to go to college for mass comm. So I did that, and
what college?
I went to Bizzie, and then went and toured some other 4 years in the state of Louisiana, and to me, Bizzie had such a good program that I kind of felt like I was going backwards.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, let's double down and invest in myself.
Let's talk about that because I hear a lot of people. For years I've heard of that's a great place to go for. Is it communication or production or whatever it is?
Yeah. So at the time when I was there, it was still called mass communications. I think it's called communications media now.
And so, what would be why is that? Is there one person who was just really good and they hired him and he built it out? Is it kind of hinged on one person running that show? The
new campus was built in I think 2006. So I was still in middle school at the time, so I don't know who started there. I know a guy named Keith Bruce was there for a long time, and he was a very large reason why we were all as successful as we were, at least the people I went there with at that time, which I graduated in 2017. I'm trying to think.
Do you think that Bizzie was like, hey, we're going to build a new campus and this is a program we really want to be here?
Yeah, because theater was really big even at the old campus next to Airline High School. That part of it, stage lighting,
that's
live
the campus
production.
I went to.
So you went there? Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, first semester.
Yeah, Airline High School.
I think one of my classes,
13th grade.
I think one of my classes met at a picnic table.
Nice.
Very small building.
Yeah. It became an administrative building.
Yeah, it's great. In fact, our church, that's where we launched our church. We were in there, Covenant Church. We were there for the first 2 or 3 years. Yeah,
it's a nice stage.
Yeah. We were in their theater, and then right across the hallway is where the kids were at. Yeah. And so
it was a really interesting time, and I'm not going to delve too deep into this and nerd out, but it was a really interesting time building C at Bizzie now, because you'd have this middle ground, because I did a lot of music electives as well because I'm a musician. So I would do choir, and I would do classic guitar and piano and all that stuff. But whenever we would do productions together, we'd have to film the plays and stuff like that. So if you're a media student, you were right there next to all the theater kids and music kids. So we'd all kind of congregate in this lobby area that was in Building C, on the classroom side, and you just have guitars and people singing and shit. It really was it was very cool. Yeah. It was very cool. Yeah. It was what you would expect to see in a movie, if it was depicting just a school of the arts. You know what I mean?
I feel like there was a lot of hacky sack being played.
There
Or was
really,
that-
there really
or was
was
that our
none.
time? Okay,
There
that
really
was our
was none. No.
That was our time. that was 20 years ahead.
One of the weirdest things we did, there was a guy, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was a great drummer, and but he had a kazoo, and he started playing Blue Oyster Cult Godzilla, the lead part on the kazoo. So I was like, wait, and I go get my guitar, and then I start, and I start playing it, and then on the kazoo, man. And then
There you go.
our music director was like, "That's what I like to hear, right there.
There you go.
That's what I'm looking for."
See?
Nice.
Fertile soil.
Did Mississippi College provide a lot of cool things like that?
You know what? It was probably wasn't the fertile soil that you guys are
Yeah.
used to in Bipsy.
Yeah.
Things would break out, but really, when it came to music at MC, was really based around a couple of things. And we would see these guys. We had this nice, beautiful lawn called the Quad, and what would happen is you would see these guys with acoustics out there, laid out on a little blanket, and there would be a female that they were courting in front of them, and they would be out there playing, serenading them. So usually if you were going to see something like that at MC, it was really more about courtship, and luring, luring females forward. So I don't know if that's why you did it, but
We were just jamming, just hanging out. It was very, there was a lot of different demographics, I would say. Like, there's a lot of dudes who might have been serenading another dude,
Yeah. I remember going to at Bipsy. A couple things I remember. One, I was in school with Trey, the drummer for American Tragedy.
Oh, that's wild.
He was there.
That's wild.
And it was during the transition. He would be like, I guess he was playing a different instrument at the time, or maybe he was on a different band. Were they a band back then? Probably 2000, year 2000. Maybe he was playing with another band.
right.
One of those, yeah. And then he smoked a lot, but a lot of people smoked back then. And I hung out with the smokers. And then there was this one guy that drove an old minivan, and he was a drummer. I never talked to him, but he practiced on his steering wheel all the time. I mean, he was just like playing music and just like beating the crap.
So
out
in
of
between
his-
class,
in between class,
he's just out there
driving. I think I saw him driving down the road hitting it one time, just playing. Like, we didn't have cell phones back then, so what else are you supposed to do when you drive?
Right.
So he was just drumming away on a steering wheel.
College did produce, some of those characters that you can still vividly see in your mind. People that would stand out, they were kind of doing their own thing, and God bless them, because, back then, people would kind of go like, oh, look, there's the guy who plays drums on his steering wheel, but these people were just doing their own thing. God bless them.
Yeah. Well, and it's, I think that's where social media has almost, squandered that, right? Is that we care so much about what people think,
Right.
who's watching, what's,
you can't.
You don't want to be the next viral video. You don't want to be playing like, you don't want to be, playing Tom Sawyer drum solo on your steering wheel, and somebody's like in the corner videoing you, and you're about to become TikTok famous.
So we're less free.
We're less free.
We're way less free.
We're less free because of a biblical, the fear of man.
That's right.
All right.
But we're less free because it's our fault that we're less free, though.
Yeah.
Like, we put these limitations on ourselves.
I agree.
Well, I think I mentioned before, I don't know if I mentioned on the podcast, but the few concerts I've been to and comedy shows where they make you lock up your phone is just so crazy. I mean, it's just really wild. I remember seeing Jack White. I think it was I don't know if he did it here. I think he did it here at Municipal. Yeah. You had to lock your phone up, and you literally during the show 100 different times I'm reaching in my pocket to go and just, I don't know, check ESPN. Check the weather. Well, I don't even know what I'm checking.
Yeah.
Right. And you go, and you're like, oh, I can't. You're like, oh, I'm just going to listen to music.
I believe there's a group of people who call that raw dogging now.
Okay.
Just
Like
raw
you're gonna-
dogging
You're
life.
going to raw dog a flight.
Okay.
No phone. No
Well,
nothing.
I'm predicting this now. Okay. There is going to be a resurgence of the flip phone,
Okay.
Well, there already is.
where you are limited, limited to what you're exposed to, but also you just take that out, get rid of that addiction to our constant need for instant, information,
Yeah.
being in touch with everything. And literally on the way here, my phone, yesterday afternoon in the pool, playing music on my phone through our system, and I go to change the music or something, it slips out of my hand, falls in the water. It's in there for 1 second. Grab it, put it up there. The phone still works fine. I go last night to put it in the charger, and it says there's water detected. If you charge it now, it'll fry your phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I'll deal with it in the morning. Okay. So this morning I wake up, don't even really think about it. I'm going to charge it in my truck on the way here. Get into my truck. It won't charge. I'm at 20%. And literally, I have a panic attack. I'm like, what do I have to go today? Who do I need to let know? I'm not going to have my phone. I mean, the world's going to fall apart if people can't get in touch with me.
Right.
Like, what am I going to do? Right?
Isn't that
and
terrible?
It just causes anxiety.
I know.
Like, just the idea of not having my phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Have you hit it with compressed air yet?
I actually I fixed it. I took
Cool.
I took an old business card, folded it up, put it in there, dried it out a little bit. It's working now. So hey, save the day here, guys.
That's a great point.
I have battery on my phone.
That's a great point. But I got to tell you, man, I feel the same way. I'm so addicted to this thing, and I hate it.
Yeah.
I just hate.
Yeah.
I hate that fact that I'm addicted to it.
Yeah.
And you talk about this phone, and I'm thinking in my mind like, oh, that'd be so amazing. But then in my mind, I start thinking, wait a minute, I would never make it without GPS. Like never. I can't even get here without GPS.
Yeah.
I come here every week.
Well, me and Laurie got married in 2004 and moved straight to Fort Worth, and we literally had to print out directions
MapQuest.
every time we went somewhere.
Yeah.
Every time. I mean, the GPS wasn't a thing. I mean, back then I was still using a Nokia. Like, we did not have GPS. I remember getting for Christmas one of those Garmin's.
Yeah.
And dude, I mean, I think it cost like $300 or $400
Yeah.
bucks
Yeah,
just
I had
for
them.
Those things
you
were
had
awesome.
to upload. Yeah, you had to upload the maps, and dude, isn't that crazy?
I know. And now, I mean, but that's just one of the apps that I start thinking about.
Yeah.
Like, man, I can't get away from that. Or,
Well, it's
I
crazy.
Need this, I need
Even
this, I need
here's
this.
what's even crazy now is like I even know half the places I am going, I know how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I still put it in to make sure that it's the fastest route.
Yeah.
Like the way that I know to go,
Right.
there's not a faster way that I know, like a neighborhood to cut through,
Right.
or that there's not some wreck between here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though it's a 10-minute drive, it's a couple miles on the road, I still put it in.
Me too. I want to know
Just to avoid
what
traffic.
time I'm getting
I
there.
do not want to avoid traffic. Yeah, I
Right.
want to know when I'm getting there.
Right.
It's crazy.
It is. Josh, so producer extraordinaire,
Yeah.
videographer,
Yes.
man of many talents.
Yes.
Thanks.
And we thank
Yes.
you for
Yes.
helping us with this particular
He
podcast.
has.
But on this episode, we had given you a little bit of an ask.
He is our number one listener.
That's right.
Because he's been here for every second.
I listened to it at least 2 times.
At least 2 times.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Once as the producer and once as a fan.
Right.
Well,
Yeah. Have you started the fan club yet? Patreon. All right, here we go.
You actually, we need a Bizzie Smalls OnlyFans. There we go.
Yeah,
That's what we need.
Whoa. Yep. So the ask from you was, throughout all these episodes, has anything stood out? Favorite moments? Has anything been of note for you as you've combed through all these episodes more than once?
So first and foremost, I remember Leighton talking about second shift. You already know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
So like we were talking about like that the work life family balance, and that was like the first thing, because I think you said that in like one of the 3rd or 4th episode or something around there. But I remember like since you said that, and it's been, well, I mean, we're doing this every week, so
Yeah.
we're on 26
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. 6 months.
Yeah, roughly 6 months. This is roughly probably 4 or 5 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's really changed my outlook on life.
And the
a
second shift being that when we stop work, quote unquote, stop working and we go home,
Yeah.
our second shift starts.
Yeah, just go inside immediately, start washing bottles, tell the kids, hey, what do you want to eat? Let's get that going.
Yeah.
We're waiting on mom to get home. She gets home. I don't want her tripping on all that kind of stuff. I want her to go get a shower and decompress.
Yeah.
And then I got the kids fed. And it's just really, man, it's a 50-50 thing. You and your wife I do these things, she does these things, and it's all the common goal of making sure that not only the kids are taken care of, but also like they feel they feel loved, they feel wanted, appreciated, all these things. It's like, I don't want to instill things in them from an early age and be like, oh, well, mom and dad don't have time for me or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think that, going back to what I said on the last episode when Jordan was on, is this idea of expectations and disappointment. I'm not sure if I've ever met anyone who's been married that in their first year of marriage wasn't disappointed, right?
At some point.
It's because, right, we go from this, this just hot pursuit dating,
chemicals,
just the world is our oyster, dreaming, let's just dream, just like, oh man, if we can just get to the finish line, which is getting married.
Oh yeah.
It's like, hey
we'll
buddy,
be set.
It's not the finish line. That would be the starting line. Exactly.
Yeah. So
and then it's like, okay, because like what tends to happen is our expectations for our spouse and their expectations for us is the framework is based off of a couple things. One, how their parents were growing up.
Their models.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So they just my wife saw her dad do certain things that her expectation is I would do those things.
Yeah.
Right? Or they have this kind of unrealistic view based off of what they see on movies or what they see, right? That, hey, this is my rescuer, love at first sight, right? I mean, it is going to be, we get married, it is going to be like first dates every day, that's what it's going to be. And then that difference in expectations, right? The gap between the expectations is the disappointment.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if there's any way I would love to say to my kids, hey, marriage counseling, all this stuff, but nothing's going to prepare you for it. No. You're just going to be disappointed.
That's right. And Josh, I really appreciate that you've taken that, heard it really heard what was said, because, there's a lot of talk right now out in the politisphere about families and family formations. And then there's people who are talking about the realities of depopulation and how our fertility rates are really, really going down. Like Japan just came up with this crazy number where, there may not be a Japan for, a whole lot longer, but
even the United States.
That's right. We're all kind of in that similar.
I think it's like somebody said it the other day. It's like the average female, if there is such a thing, I don't know. The average woman has to have 2.1 children to be able to sustain what we currently have.
Get back.
And now the average is like 1.7.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, but really there's so many confounding factors with that and what's driving to that, at least in my view.
Yeah.
But really what you're talking about is, hey, as a younger man, your willingness to commit, to be in this committed relationship, and then to be a father that shows up for your kids and is part of a commitment and is part of a family that wants a future, that can see a future. But what's so beautiful about that, and I don't think really gets championed enough by whoever, is that's what's gotten us here for a long time.
Yeah.
That simple idea, and no matter how we want to sort of reimagine or re-engineer that scenario, the truth is that there's a lot of beauty in what you're doing. And you should be commended every time you go in and say, I don't say commended like, hey man, you're so special, because it's dignity and it's hard work. But I just think it's phenomenal that family formation that you're involved in and caring about your kids, that to me, that's what's gotten us here, and that's what'll keep us going.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's, when you think of passing the torch or generation to generation, I mean, and a very idealistic approach is, well, I'm going to get this huge platform and just change a bunch of people's lives from the great words I say or whatever, right? But the truth is, it's not, right? Yeah. I mean, the truth is that our front lines and our responsibility is to instill our, faith or character, whatever it is, into our kids, right? That's who we're around the most. And that's really, so, there's a lot of people that might have had a huge impact or is well known by millions of people, but they haven't done anything with the people that live in their home, right? Yeah. And it's difficult, because this morning I was thinking about it on the way here, because my 15-year-old, we just have great conversations. I love just being around him. But then my next born, I was taking him somewhere this morning, and man, I just can't even get a conversation started. I'm just trying to talk, He's like, I don't know. He's like, can we just listen to music?
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, dude, I'm trying to like bond here.
Right.
Like, how can we bond?
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah. No, but listen, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Because that's a really cool point, and I'm glad that if there's been of any value that's hit you. Anything else?
Oh,
you know what this is. This is kind of like the you're really looking forward to the next episode of the sitcom you love to come out. And then you go to watch it and you realize it's like a recap episode.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is crap. The Voice does that all the time. It's like,
recap.
oh, a new episode of The Voice. They're like, we're going to show a recap. I'm like,
No, I have several. Actually, I have several points. So, I mean, furthermore, in that too, y'all talked about how you define success, and I can't remember what episode that was, because everything kind of just blurs into my head.
well, let's also say we sprung this on you about 30 minutes ago that you were going to be on here.
But no, like the one that sticks to me too is like how you define success, and I think what's y'all's coach's name?
Aaron.
I think that's what y'all talked about with Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think y'all talked about this with Jason too, because
Sure.
they have a very similar career field, honestly, when you really look at it. But obviously, I mean, it's not, how much money I can make. Dude, I've had a surplus of money in the bank and been distraught about things that are going on in my life, and it had no effect on how I felt, inwardly. And then I've had a negative number in my account and been extremely happy.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, that has no effect on my disposition.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get there because I used to stress out about it. It's like, oh my God, I only have like a few $100 left over after I pay all my bills. Well, hold on, what's the great thing? Let's dissect that. What's the great part about that? You paid all your bills.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's recoup and let's put our nose to the grindstone and make sure we're good for the next month.
Yeah.
But it's not just like hearing that. I think that more so validated something that I had already realized, but it's cool to hear that like from people like y'all that are 10, 12 years ahead of me in business.
Thanks for reminding us.
Well, sorry.
Old is the word, yeah.
No, I get called. It sucks because now I'm to the point where people view me.
Yeah.
Dude, I did and I'll briefly touch this and come back. There's a musician that I did a music video for, and she's got a little buzz around the Houston area and Dallas, like the Triangle in Texas, essentially. She plays a lot of gigs around there, but she's only 15. So like me and her mom talking back and forth for a few weeks, and then I go down there and shoot. And like her mom thought, and then all this little girl's elders thought I was hilarious, all the references I was making. And then like I crack a joke around the teenagers, and then they're like, "Wait, what's that?" Like I'm talking about, mention the Montreal Expos to a teenager. You know what I mean? Like they don't know what that is.
No.
No. But anyway, coming back to that, I'm old too.
Yeah.
We're all old, but just to see like how it could be for me, a decade from now. It's not really could be. If I keep doing what I'm doing, it is the way it's going to be. But
well, I think that the difference, when I was your age, you said you're about to be 30.
I just turned 30.
Yeah, just turned 30, and I still, if someone in their 40s or 50s was going to give me advice, I just wouldn't listen to it. Like, they don't know what they're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And now, being one of those people, I'm like, man, I was so stupid. Like, obviously, you just learn a lot, right? And so, but yeah, I think that's a defining success. It's funny, as I had a coaching session yesterday, and we always start our coaching session with talking about the wins, the successes, right? What's going well. And I'm writing down the things that are preparing for the meeting, writing down the wins, but the whole time I'm thinking, like, I don't even want to be writing these down, because there is so much crap I got to deal with that I really just want to get on here and vent and just be so annoyed. But you know what? Then you write down all those wins and the things that are going well, and then it makes the problems just seem very small, right? But that's what we do, right? We might have 90% of all the stuff we're doing going in a good direction, going well, and that 10% is just what eats at us.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a really good point. Earlier, maybe last week, a couple things weren't going the way I wanted them to go. And I immediately started to feel despondent, started to feel like, okay, this failure is defining me as a person. Ergo, I'm a failure, and then through some of the work that, we've sort of done with coaching and just life, I've gotten to a place where I was able to recognize it and stop and say, you know what, man, just because this little part of the machine is not working doesn't mean that I'm a failure. It just means that I get a chance to come to work tomorrow and work on it. And if you tell me a workplace in America that's working 100% perfectly, like, show me. Who is it?
Yeah.
Everybody's dealing with this.
Well, and then, for me, it was my frustration was because I had this plan, right? And I use this word plan, but in my mind I have, hey, this is what I want things to look like in 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, right? And so I have this plan, and when something goes against that plan working out, I view it, well, that's a failure. Now the plan's not going to work, all this stuff, right? And so then I almost have to rewire. This is just from my coaching meeting yesterday. I've just been thinking about this nonstop. Is for me and my personality and where I'm at in life, my plan doesn't need to be this big structure or business structure or goals. My plan is to really depends on the people that I have around me. Like, my plan is having people on board with my vision, and as many of those people as I can, right? So my plan isn't to have 7 great people around me. Now my plan is to have 8. Who's the next person I'm bringing in that's aligned with my vision?
Yeah,
and that becomes the plan.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's clicking to another level.
Yeah, and so that's really, but that takes so much pressure off of me.
Yeah. Josh, thanks for that one. The thing about defining success and something that has, I don't know, it feels like as I've gotten a little bit older, some of this has really kind of revealed itself, and it feels like that in some weird ways. You're talking about, I wish I knew now, I wish I knew then what I know now, but some of the things I find in life have revealed themselves, kind of as I've gotten older. Maybe I wasn't ready, or maybe I didn't have ears to hear. But the definition of success for me, and I think a lot of people get into this trap of, we have these 6 or 7, what do we call it? The vectors of your life. We talked about them in the ideal wheel, right?
Yeah.
So it was family, it was health, it was career, all those things that went into the ideal wheel. What happens is we take one of those and we make them the idol, meaning maybe a lot of times it's money or career, and it's like, hey, I'm defining myself by this one particular lens of living. And then that's the disappointment, right? Is because our expectation is that, hey, my success is strictly defined by this career piece. Yeah. And what you said, and even to your point earlier, is that to redefine success amongst those different dimensions, be it family, be it spirituality, be it your friends, all those, considering all of those as a part of a life that's meaningful, has been really helpful for me. Because when I try to overemphasize one of those dimensions, usually it's career for me because I'm kind of a goal-oriented kind of person.
Yeah,
I do feel it's an idol. It's like I'm lesser than of a person than somebody who's looking at the whole spectrum of life and going, really success for me should be about having a great spiritual life. It should be about being a great father, a great husband, a great friend, being in good shape, taking care of myself. Getting great sleep, all those things. So the ideal wheel and that definition of success has been really important for me. And so I'm hoping that maybe there's someone out there who can hear it and make a little adjustment if needed.
Well, and I think part of it too is, what is contentment for you? Like you said, my bills are paid. I have a place to live. My kids are, doing what they're doing, and why isn't that okay to just live in? Mm-hmm. Like, why do I still feel like I'm not enough?
Not enough.
There's still more that I have to go get.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm just not content with just what I've been blessed with.
Right.
And so you're still pushing the gas.
Yeah.
When it's like, hey, in a sense, you could be on cruise control the rest of your life and focus on these other things, and just be okay with where you're at in life.
Mm-hmm.
But that's hard.
I mean, sure, I want a metal building full of like right-handed drive, like sports cars from the 90s from Japan, things like that. I want that, but key word is want. I mean, like when I get old, that'll probably be something I have. And then my daughters will be like, oh, Dad, just spending all that money he's made, but that's cool. Like, as opposed to, I've seen so many people do it. I've seen no people in my family do it. They try to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Like when they're young.
Yeah.
And then really their kids suffer because of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's really not that big of a deal. I mean, really all those kids want is like, what they're going to remember is whenever you laid in bed with them at night and watched a movie with them until they fell asleep, or they're going to remember, like cooking food with you, or like learning how to light a grill, or the time, like me and them, we built a fire pit in the backyard, like stuff like that's the stuff they're going to remember.
Well, because they don't, I mean, my kids have no concept of money. Right, they'll be like, "Hey, I'll trade you this $1 for that quarter." I'm like, "No, that's a horrible trade. Why would you do that?" They're like, "Well, I want the thing that's heavy." It's like, but like they have no. They're like, "Hey, did this? Oh, you got that car? Did that cost? Was that $1,000? Like, how much is our house? How much money? Like, you could say any number. What's in the bank account? You're like $100. Wow, they're blown away, right?
Yeah.
And so they don't. But you're right. I mean, but then I can get around my kids, and they'll talk about, a time we did one kind of silly thing or went on some trip 3 years ago, and they still remember that, and it sticks to them, right? And so then it's like, well, are we really going to spend our time and energy trying to impress people that don't really know us? They know who we are, but they don't know us.
And don't really care because they're thinking about their life,
They
right?
don't care, right? Yeah. And we're just like, hey, but I want all these people to see how great I am on Facebook, right?
Right.
But then at the expense of, not connecting with our kids.
Yeah.
Or not, setting up for future or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. Some people see that as an issue. As I've found, I mean, we're just kind of harping on this subject, and I do have more points, but I think some people see, like, and I've met people like this that are family people, but they're so hell-bent on making money, and I've met some that are really good at making money.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, there's just such a disconnect between them and their spouse, or them and their kids, or whatever, and then they look at you like, well, why don't you want to put forth the same amount of effort that I'm putting to make this amount of money? Because that, to them, like, that is the key to it. And it's like, I've just always found, like, in business, like, if I separate myself from people like that, I do a lot better. I feel better, not having to deal with getting a text message at 9-something at night.
Yeah.
And being like, well, there's this issue with this video, or blah, 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 or I'd like to change this on this, blah, blah. I'm like, man, go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Like, go pay attention to your family for a minute. It's just like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. But hold on. Let me check the other, because I wrote down.
Yeah, I was thinking, one of the things I talked about when I was trying to really, with my coaching session yesterday, really make when I was thinking about, my plan really is being around these people that are going to be on board with my vision. And I was just thinking about what leads to frustration and feels draining to me versus what helps me thrive, right? And it is spending or investing my time in things that are giving life, right? That are life-giving or growing, right? And those are the avenues. Anytime I'm in an avenue where it's someone who's just, not doing their, being sluggish or just being negative about stuff. I mean, it drains me, right? It just zaps all of my energy for the day to have like a 10-minute conversation with somebody like that, right? And so then it's like, that's really my barometer, is how much time am I spending in life-giving avenues, right? Because when you think of like, that is growing, right? I mean, healthy things grow and give life.
Absolutely.
There's have you ever seen the show What We Do in the Shadows?
Oh yeah.
Either one of y'all. You know what I'm talking about, the emotional vampires. Yeah, they really they exist, man.
Yeah,
They
he
exist.
takes it. Yeah, he takes the emotion from people. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
such a great show. New season's coming out.
Yeah, it's like the Office, but it's about vampires.
Instead of him living off of blood of other people, he just takes their energy. So everybody he's around, all the humans he's around, they just like fall asleep.
It's pretty funny.
It is great.
The next point I was really impressed with. Taylor McDonald's episode stood out to me. Really, just because like
Country Club.
Yeah, or T-Bone, right?
T-Bone.
T-Bone. They call her T-Bone. She hates it. So I won't call her that anymore on this podcast.
Yeah.
But that one kind of stuck out to me just because, like, in that particular field that she's in, she is right. You don't see a whole lot of ladies in that field.
Yeah.
That's just kind of a quick hit. That was pretty impressive to me.
Yeah.
She seemed to be a cool lady. But just this last week, what Brittany Spivey said about leading, just the fact that she is doing all the same things that her people are doing, like in her stores.
Yeah.
That's not we know that's not normal. That's
No,
not
it's
commonplace at all.
Yeah.
And it can be really, you have a lot of people, I think one of the main reasons that they leave a job, you talked about this, like by the time somebody asks for a raise, they're already upset.
Yeah.
So that's just one aspect of the bigger point. I mean, it's just like, if people don't feel as if though you're in it with them, even if you are an owner or a leader of some sort, if they don't feel like you're working towards the same, like same common goal, they're not really gonna be engaged in their job.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really big thing that you don't see a lot, especially in the local realm. For her to say, like, it's hard for me to even discipline them because I'm doing everything they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm right beside them. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to, even talking about that, about the expectations and the difference being the disappointment. It's, that's just and I'm nowhere near where I need to be in my organizations, but the expectations of our team members, right? Like some of them might not know what you expect out of them, and they're just stabbing in the dark, right? And when they don't hit that mark, like I have expectations for someone, but if I've never told them and been very clear of those expectations, how can I go to them and be disappointed, right? But you're right. I mean, she's great. I mean, she is in the trenches with them, side by side, working along with them. And that's a different type of leadership, and it's very effective.
Well, to her, it's funny because it's obviously, we're in a capitalist society, but her view is very much a socialist view.
Yeah.
If you look at it that way, but on a municipal level, it's right, in her own company. But it's like, well, if y'all fail, I fail.
Yeah. Well,
Period.
And I think that, and I didn't get into this with her though, but that idea, when I talk about John Ortberg's book, Sticky Teams, when he talks about, you're a track star, then you have golfing buddies, right? And you're doing it all together. And that's really the stage she's at, right? Yeah. But the shift that she's going to go into, and by opening up these multiple locations, she has to turn into a football team, right? Yeah. She can't be there in 3 locations at one time.
No, that's true.
Working alongside of these people.
Yeah.
Right. And so then it's like, well, that's just a whole nother deal of scaling and developing. And now I need there to be 2 more of me to be next to these people at these locations.
That transition in a business I can see it as really challenging.
Oh yeah.
Because, we're just taking her for example now, and because she's so hands-on and she's so with everybody and spending all that time. Again, as her locations continue to grow, which is an amazing thing, and saying that she's doing something right, again, they're not going to have her at that store, right? Like today, we didn't see Brittany today, so there's a switch that has to get flipped, and I think, I could be wrong, but I think it's really. They talk a lot about storytelling, and they talk a lot about narrative, and they talk a lot about mission for leaders. And I think that you get to the point in leadership where you almost become more of a storyteller. You almost become more of, you're kind of uniting people around narrative and mission and hope. And I think that that's a skill that you have to really develop. Some people are great storytellers. Some people are terrible storytellers, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that once you can't physically be there, what is going to motivate that person, not to the same degree of what you're saying is like, hey, we're working side by side, but I don't see you today. Mm-hmm. So what is going to motivate me in the same way as you being right next to me? It's impossible, we know. Yeah. But what's the next gear to go to keep that continuity going?
And I don't know if there's a great answer for that. I think that it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, is you just need people aligned with your vision. I was around someone the other day, a leader, and while I was around this person, they were asked over a dozen times about what to do next by the people they were leading. We kept getting interrupted. Well, what about this? Well, what do I need to do here? What do I need to do here? And I'm like, it gave me anxiety. I'm like, these people need to be empowered just to make a dang decision by themselves.
Yeah.
Because these weren't hard decisions.
Yeah.
Right? These were not like make or break decisions. Mm-hmm. And so it just shows, as a leader, it's very easy. We can become a bottleneck very easily.
It's a heliocentric model.
Yes. And we have got to empower people.
Yeah.
And be okay with it not being done the way you would have it done, right? Mm-hmm. If they care, if your visions align and they do care about what's best for your organization, then they should be able to go out and execute on some decision making. It's not detrimental to the company.
Right.
Well, yeah, if you've hired them and vetted them, then that means at least to a degree you trust their ability to make a decision for themselves that will be in the best interest of the company, right? But then back to disappointment.
Yeah.
Sometimes, sometimes it's, I don't know, it's even the little bit that I've had to subcontract things to people or have people come on jobs with me. I have a handful of people that do a really good job and have done a really good job, and I'll still call on those people when I need them. But then probably 70% of the people that I've tried to get to help me with stuff, I'm just like, dear God.
Well, I think that you can. I think you can still appreciate things in that, right? If I've empowered someone to make a decision and they blow it and make just the worst decision, right? I can at least say, hey, look, I appreciate your effort. You were trying to do what's right, and you did take the responsibility on your own. And I appreciate that. Then you kind of coach them through. Here's what I would have done a little bit different, and why I would have done it different, right? Mm-hmm. So
I've had those experiences, but also I've had experiences where it's I've very, very clearly laid out written instructions of, hey, here's how you do this.
Yeah.
It was a podcast.
Well, and I think that there is,
don't do it.
Identifying misalignment is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we've talked about this before in the podcast. It's our human nature to believe the best in someone, right? And so we tend to ignore multiple red flags before we're like, okay, this. And so that's something I'm working on personally, is not letting it prolong. Right, because misalignment is just, you think of a tire becoming misaligned, you just veer off the path more and more as you go, right? Very rarely does it correct itself, if ever. Yeah. And so, you're just thinking, well, hopefully it'll fix itself. Well, it doesn't, right? And then the question is, well, why do we avoid it? Is it because we feel like we're a failure? Is it because we just don't want it's better for them to be filling that position misaligned than it is for that position to be vacant sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But for me, my biggest hesitation is not knowing what's next. I'm okay cutting ties with somebody if I have a replacement right away. Right.
Well, it's something that we all go through in various ways, is that sometimes the only way to get to long-term growth is short-term pain. Mm-hmm. And most of us are pain avoidant, right?
Oh, yeah.
We don't want to go through the struggle of having to switch gears and pivot,
or call somebody else pain.
That's right. That's exactly right. So
Yeah.
we would avoid the short-term pain, knowing that really in the long run, it's better for us to go ahead and just rip the Band-Aid off, make the decision, make the motion, go forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel that all the time in business of,
Yeah.
oh, this is going to hurt, but we know what's on the other end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Paradise,
Sure.
my friends.
Paradise.
Yeah. I have one more serious talking point.
Okay.
Let's just talk about Jason.
Okay. Jason coming back on in a couple weeks.
Yeah. My favorite guest.
We got him scheduled.
Favorite guest,
Favorite
Jason
guest.
Wood.
Jason
Yeah.
Wood.
No, let's not tell him.
He's going to find out. He'll listen. He'll find out. He's going to cry probably too. Tears of joy.
Yeah.
But no, I find his outlook to be, because I mean, I feel like I don't feel like faith is a linear thing. I don't feel like somebody starts out like, oh well, I believe in God and my faith is just going to get stronger and stronger and I'm becoming more perfect in a straight line upward for the rest of my life.
I mean, that's my life, but yeah,
well,
whatever.
that's Leighton's
for
life.
most people.
That's late, but for most people, it does like this. But even when I think in a headspace of like, because when I was in college, and I think a lot of college kids go through this, where they're like they question a lot of things that they've been taught, and I've never not had a belief in God, but I've kind of veered in that, like now, yeah, I mean, I just trust the Bible. I mean, essentially, my Bible, my commentary Bible, like whenever I have questions about, okay, what's the context of this, why it was, I delve really deep and then I'll take note of cross references as I'm studying, so that I can go back and understand, okay, why was Galatians written this way? Why was Paul so angry with everybody in Romans? Stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's interesting, to say the very least, but that to me, it's like if I need like help in any way or wisdom, like that is really the main thing that I'm going to refer to, and then everything else is kind of secondary to that. But to hear from Jason's perspective, like to be a life coach, I've met like life coaches and I've gone to therapy sessions with individuals that are faith-based, and he doesn't really fit the mold of those guys in that he is going to give you a very worldly perspective, and also he's going to tell you how that relates to Scripture, whereas he's not just being like, well, just give it to God, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like people don't always need to hear that.
Yeah.
Because that is true. If you do give it to God, ultimately it will be okay. But, if somebody's in the throes of addiction or is in the throes of depression or has crippling anxiety or whatever, just telling them to pray about it is not going to fix that.
Sure.
It's going to discourage them probably.
Yeah.
So I really I think overall, like his overall disposition, I just appreciate, because it's like, he's not a stiff, just straight up, like, oh, well, we're just, this is what Scripture says about it, and that's it.
Well, right. And there's a lot of times people are just idealistic about it, right? Not realistic. I mean, the realistic thing is, sure, I can give it to God, but I still have a huge amount of anxiety about this, or I still have this really, right? So there have to be practical tools to help me other than just reading the Bible and praying, right? There are some practical things that can be done. Yeah. And I agree. Yeah, Jason has a lot of wisdom in that.
So we got to get him back. Clearly,
got to get him back.
What was it? 6/13. What was the date?
Oh, 6/13.
Josh, I really connected with what you said about the nonlinear version of spiritual growth, and I just think about, say the Hebrews in the Old Testament that wandered in the desert for 40 years, or Jacob who is wrestling with God, or something like that. Those stories are in there for a reason, I think, and they just point to this idea of if you're going to take this seriously, if you're going to be a real person, and you're not going to be somebody who's just like, God's got it.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a real person, you're going to be in the middle of stuff, and you're going to have highs and you're going to have lows, and you're going to have days when you feel God's love so apparent in everywhere you go, and then there's days where you're like, I don't know if God is real.
Yeah.
That's just that. I think that's how most people experience life.
Yeah.
But to hear that, in some way that Jason has been a benefit to you, number one, I love Jason, and I've loved talking to him over the years.
Yeah.
So it makes me feel good that that's been a benefit.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Anything else we want to talk about? We got man, a lot to look forward to. Have some great guests on the books.
I wish we could, and this was my last talking point, but it's very brief. I wish that I could include what you said when I hit record before we walked into Ivy's on the field trip.
Okay.
We can't ever. I mean, that'll never air anywhere. But
I don't remember what I said, but I bet it was great.
I'll remind you after this episode. It's pretty funny.
Okay.
That's for
I like it. Yeah. Maybe our listeners could guess what
after hours. So we're going to finish with a mystery.
After hours. Yeah. Only for our Patreon listeners.
That's right. All right, Josh, Warren, where can people find you?
Really just nowadays, personal page, Josh Warren on Facebook. Instagram handle is more of an Old Norse spelling of my name, Josvawarren. Josva Warren.
There you go. Hey, I don't know if we've given a local company shout out. I know that we on last episode we might have, but Josh, since you're on here, man, you get to talk. What's your local company you want to highlight?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hold on. You know what? I have interest in this company, but I'm just going to talk about them.
All right.
Because Pork and Fork Preps, man.
Okay.
Just, sometimes I help out, sometimes I don't. But,
okay. And they do meal preps.
Yeah, Billy Wythop.
Okay.
Just a amazing chef. Me and him learned under the same guy, Matt Conover, years ago. Whenever I do get to help with him, great things happen. DJ Thomas become really good on the catering side of things, but it was already really good on the barbecue side.
I mean, look, every time it comes up, I'm like, hey, can we just bring in some samples? Do I have to keep going to Sam's Club for samples? Can I give
But I will say this. I have to give Megan credit or she'll be mad. But it is true. Megan is the glue that keeps it all together. She is the lady that, she's like, hey, logistically, we got to get these preps to these people.
Okay.
And you guys are over here just listening to rap music. And,
let me say, logistically, let's figure out how to get some samples here on a Thursday
of the
and
Fork Preps.
Me and Josh. Let's talk about it.
The two best. So I'm gonna tell you all this right now.
Okay.
The two best are the pulled pork sweet potato.
Okay.
Stupid.
Thought about it.
Awesome.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Okay. Second, in my opinion, the second best, or it might just be a close tie for number one there. They either do chicken and like a green vegetable. So most of the time it's like chicken and broccolini, but it's over like coconut rice.
Okay.
Like the Thai coconut rice.
Yeah.
Like it.
I do that too.
Those two to me, if you see one of those on the menu, be like, DJ, I want 5. That's what I'm eating this week for lunch.
Well, I think we need a real taste review live.
That's right.
Here on the pod.
Pork and Fork Preps.
Yes, and catering.
Bring it on.
So prep meals and catering. Yep.
That's right.
Cool. Awesome. Good shout out. All right. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Y'all.